The stench of sterile plastic and imported antiseptics hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the humid acro heat pressing against the hospital windows. Only 6 weeks ago, Adwoa Mensah, the 28-year-old titan of Ghanaian tech and heiress to a vast mining fortune, had been the embodiment of dynamic power. Now, she was an immovable monument of silence, confined to a mahogany-framed bed in the penthouse suite she insisted on calling it the fortress. The official report cited a catastrophic road accident on the George Walker Bush Highway, a rogue truck, a crushing impact, a devastating spinal injury. But the accident was a fiction, a masterful piece of theater orchestrated by Adwoa herself. Her goal was simple, ruthless, and consuming: to test the absolute loyalty of the only person left she claimed to trust, her lifelong friend, Nadia Frimpong. Nadia sat beside her, a study in forced exhaustion, her slender fingers gently smoothing Adwoa's silk pajamas. Her eyes, usually sparkling with infectious mischief, were red-rimmed and filled with genuine, though complicated, tears. "Adwoa, you're the strongest person I know. We'll get through this." "We will," she whispered, the tremor in her voice suggesting deep sorrow, or perhaps something else entirely. She had just been told the prognosis: complete and irreversible paralysis from the neck down. Adwoa's eyes, the only things she could move, followed Nadia's every subtle shift, the involuntary clench of her jaw, the way her gaze lingered on the diamond solitaire ring Adwoa wore, a gift from an unnamed suitor. Adwoa was watching, waiting, judging. The vast fortune was now a deadly low, and Nadia was trapped in its gravitational pull, believing herself to be the sole guardian of a silent, helpless goldmine. The game, costly and life-altering, had begun. 2 weeks bled into a grey monotony for Nadia, whose life had transformed overnight from a struggling textile designer into the indispensable lifeline for one of Ghana's richest women. The fortress was no longer a place of friendship; it was an office, a prison, and a sanctuary, all wrapped into one. Every action Nadia took, every sigh she released, was digitally catalogued and analyzed by the hidden camera system Adwoa had installed before the stage crash, a system Nadia was unaware of. Adwoa's eyes, wide and unerringly alert beneath their heavy lids, were the only things that moved, but they missed nothing today. The tension peaked with the arrival of Mr. Argumen, the family's ancient, meticulous attorney. His creased linen suit and grave expression confirmed the seriousness of the occasion. He had arrived to finalize the legal formalities, the immediate financial proxy and the reading of Adwoa's last will and testament, a document she had revised just a week before the accident. "Since Madam Mensah is unable to communicate," Mr. Argumen stated, sliding the heavy folder across the polished cedar table, "Miss Frimpong, you are now her authorized, temporary proxy for all non-sale assets and immediate healthcare decisions." Nadia's hand trembled as she signed the papers, her gaze flitting to the section detailing the beneficiaries. Adwoa had been specific in her will: if she did not recover within 6 months, a massive, unencumbered trust fund for the care and maintenance of my closest companion would be activated, guaranteeing Nadia a lifetime of unimaginable luxury. A tiny, almost imperceptible morsel twitched near the corner of Nadia's mouth. Adwoa, watching from the silent bed, registered the twitch and noted the faint gleam of calculation that momentarily eclipsed the grief in her friend's eyes. The test was intensifying, and the first tendrils of greed were wrapping around Nadia's heart. The first sign that Nadia was shedding her grief and embracing her new authority was the swift, clinical firing of Oma, Adwoa's meticulous, long-time head nurse. Oma, a woman whose loyalty was measured in decades, had been replaced by a younger, less questioning attendant, a clear step designed to remove the oldest set of eyes from Adwoa's daily life. Nadia framed it as a need for fresh energy to aid in Adwoa's recovery, but Adwoa, silently observing from the prison of her body, recognized it as the first move to secure her access and limit oversight. The dismissal was handled with an icy efficiency that Adwoa had never seen Nadia possess. Nadia's phone calls became longer, more animated, and always conducted behind the heavy, soundproof oak door of the master study. She began using the corporate card for increasingly extravagant personal expenses, not just high-end clothing, but exclusive reservations at restaurants Adwoa had always scorned as tacky displays of new money. Adwoa saw it all: the daily delivery of imported flowers, the dismissal of the chef who cooked her preferred local Ghanaian dishes, replaced by a personal trainer for Nadia herself. It was a subtle, creeping takeover, a restructuring of Adwoa's world to better suit Nadia's own blossoming sense of entitlement. One evening, Nadia brought a man into the fortress. He was handsome, sleek, and carried the easy confidence of someone used to luxury. Nadia introduced him simply as a business associate, but the way their hands lingered, and the hushed intimacy of their laughter echoing through the silent halls, spoke volumes. Adwoa knew this man, or rather, she knew of him. His name was Kwasi, and he was the notorious ex-boyfriend of her bitter rival in the tech industry, a man with a reputation for leveraging access to powerful women. Adwoa felt a cold, calculated confirmation settle over her. Nadia wasn't just enjoying the wealth, she was actively preparing for a future without her friend. Late one night, with the specialized nurse safely out of earshot, Nadia and Kwasi retreated to Adwoa's sprawling, darkened terrace, where the distant neon glow of Accra provided a deceptive sense of privacy. 6 months, Kwasi. That's the timeline, Nadia murmured, swirling the cognac Adwoa's father had reserved for special occasions. If she shows no recovery in 6 months, the trust activates. The money is secured forever. Kwasi, leaning against the glass railing, wasn't convinced. His eyes narrowed, reflecting the city lights. And if she recovers at 5 months and 29 days? Adwoa doesn't lose. She only wins. We need a guarantee, Nadia. Kwasi's gaze drifted toward the darkened wing of the penthouse where Adwoa lay. The therapy schedule is aggressive. The doctor from London specializes in miracle recoveries. We need to stop the miracles. Nadia gasped, but the sound was more of surprise at his audacity than moral offense. Kwasi placed a hand on her cheek, a gesture of cold, manipulative intimacy. You are the proxy. You cite emotional distress and inadequate care. Fire the expensive foreign physiotherapist. Replace them with someone local, less intrusive, less effective. Slow the progress to a halt. The conversation, whispered and chillingly practical, was being recorded in pristine clarity. Adwoa felt a profound, ice-cold nausea grip her non-responsive body. It wasn't the theft of the money that caught her, it was the clinical, absolute betrayal by Nadia, her sister since childhood. Nadia didn't just want the wealth, she was actively conspiring to condemn Adwoa to a lifetime of silent purgatory. The test had been passed, but in the most devastating way possible. Adwoa's rage fueled her resolve. The game had to be played to its final, devastating conclusion. Nadia moved with calculated precision, initiating the first phase of Kwasi's sabotage plan. The following morning, she tearfully informed Dr. Eshon, Adwoa's brilliant specialist, that the intensity of the sessions was causing her too much emotional pain, and was cruel to Adwoa's fragile state. She insisted on a less aggressive, local approach. Dr. Eshon, bound by his client's proxy's wishes, expressed professional reservations but ultimately had to comply. Within 24 hours, the renowned specialist was gone, replaced by a quiet, inexperienced young woman named Della, whom Nadia introduced with overdone sincerity. Della's sessions consisted mainly of gentle massages and passive limb movements, lacking the grueling, neurological stimulation Adwa's actual recovery required. Adwa noted the immediate change. The burn of true physiotherapy, the painful effort to coax nerve pathways back to life, was replaced by a soothing, ineffective routine, a spot treatment for a coma patient. This sabotage was now tangible, a daily dose of delayed death. Meanwhile, Nadia began liquidating Adwa's more personal, less tracked assets. The vintage Mercedes 190 SL, a gift from Adwa's late grandfather, vanished from the garage. The prized collection of rare Ashanti gold weights was quietly valued by an appraiser who visited the fortress late one afternoon. Nadia claimed she was selling the items to cover extravagant medical costs, but the fortress's accounts showed no such need. Adwa had given her a test of loyalty. Nadia was answering with naked, accelerating avarice, selling off Adwa's memories piece by piece, anticipating the day when she would inherit the whole kingdom. The fortress had become a stage for Nadia and Kwasi's brazen new life. They moved through Adwa's carefully curated home with the entitlement of squatters, their presence a continuous, grating insult. Kwasi, in particular, seemed to take perverse pleasure in occupying Adwa's personal spaces. He worked from her late father's antique mahogany desk, a piece Adwa revered, scattering cigarette ash onto the pristine leather blotting pad. Worse, Nadia began wearing Adwa's couture dresses purchased on trips to Paris and Milan that were still sealed, awaiting the perfect Ghanaian gala. One evening, Adwa watched on the monitor as Nadia paraded in a bespoke Kent gown, a masterpiece Adwa had designed herself for her imaginary wedding day. It was a theft of identity, not just fabric. This constant, escalating violation cemented Adwa's resolve. Lying motionless in the dark, she instructed her hidden network central intelligence system, nicknamed Anance, Spider, to shift its focus entirely onto Kwasi. She didn't just want to confirm his greed, she wanted the ammunition to destroy him and Nadia. Anance burrowed deep into Ghana's murky business records and private circles. The data streamed across Adwa's customized retinal display, unseen by human eyes. The findings were not just about money, they were scandalous, far exceeding simple gold digging. Kwasi wasn't merely a fortune hunter, he was a corporate spy, and his original assignment, long before Nadia, had been to destabilize Adwa's company on behalf of her rival, Kojo, the man whose ex-girlfriend Kwasi had once dated. Kwasi hadn't found the money through Nadia, he had been searching for the means to ruin Adwa all along. Adwa initiated contact with Ya, a trusted real estate lawyer and the only person who knew the secret of the fortress's hidden cameras and Adwa's mobility. Ya was the architect of the paralysis charade, tasked with observing from the outside. Using a tiny, voice-activated microphone hidden in the headrest of her specialized wheelchair, Adwa dictated instructions to Ya via coded phrases disguised as strained, labored breathing patterns. The core command was precise and devastating: leak a falsified internal financial audit to Kwasi's non-digital associates. This audit, fabricated by Anance, suggested Adwa's entire liquid portfolio, the multi-billion Saudi fortune Nadia coveted, was tied up in a highly unstable, illegal offshore bond. The report claimed the bond was on the brink of catastrophic collapse within 48 hours. The lie was designed to induce maximum panic. If the wealth was about to vanish, Nadia and Kwasi would accelerate their theft, making their actions not just greedy but desperate and highly incriminating. Kwasi, already under pressure from his original handler, Kojo, would see this crisis as his final chance to complete his espionage mission, ruining Adwa's reputation before the collapse. The situation forced Kwasi's hand. he had to meet Kojo to coordinate a final, fatal strike on Adwoa's company, Meridian Holdings. Adwoa had arranged for Kojo to attend the exact same exclusive charity gala that Nadia and Kwasi planned to attend, where Nadia intended to debut Adwoa's stolen Kent gown. The trap was sprung, baited with greed, lies, and the symbolic theft of Adwoa's dreams. The night of the gala would be the ignition point for the most spectacular downfall Ghana had ever witnessed. The night of the Golden Heart Charity Gala was a shimmering tableau of Ghana's elite, held at the capital's most exclusive venue. Nadia arrived draped in the gold-threaded Kent gown, the fabric catching the chandelier light like liquid wealth. She felt untouchable, savoring the hushed admiration that followed her across the marble floor. Her face, a mask of noble grief and quiet resilience, accepted the condolences for poor Adwoa's condition. Adwoa, watching every detail through the miniature camera Yawo pinned to her velvet shawl, felt a cold, satisfying rage. Nadia looked magnificent, wearing the testament to her ultimate betrayal. This public debut of stolen identity was Adwoa's final necessary insult. Kwasi, however, was a portrait of barely controlled panic. The fake offshore collapse report was burning a hole in his mind, urging him to secure the information he needed from Kojo to complete the industrial espionage before the entire fortune dissolved. He spotted Kojo, Adwoa's powerful business rival and Kwasi's real, original employer, at the far end of the ballroom, his eyes narrowed and impatient. Kwasi abandoned Nadia mid-sentence, striding across the floor for a hurried, desperate consultation. This clandestine meeting, happening in plain view of the entire financial world, was exactly what Adwoa needed. Guided by Adwoa's coded breathing, moved subtly closer, ensuring the audio from her lapel microphone captured every incriminating whisper. As Kwasi and Kojo huddled in a corner, Kojo, furious about the panicked offshore leak, barked loud enough for the hidden microphone to register. Nadia, oblivious, was giving an interview to a socialite blogger, detailing her plans to revamp Adwoa's estate and legacy, a grand performance of selfless guardianship while the man she loved exposed their entire scheme just meters away. Moved with practiced subtlety, her expression politely strained as she slipped past the crowded bar. The digital evidence, the damning recording of Kwasi's confession to Kojo, detailing the corporate sabotage and the manipulation of Nadia, was now secured and beamed directly to the fortress. Adwoa, watching the timeline unfold on her internal monitor, felt a chilling calm. The moment had arrived. With a single, minutely controlled muscle twitch, she authorized the final phase, activating Anand's most powerful digital function. The resulting breach was swift and devastating, a coordinated information assault that struck the core of Ghana's business and social media landscape. The explosive package contained two items: the fake audit predicting the $4 billion collapse of Meridian Holdings due to mismanagement, and a transcript of the recorded conversation between Kwasi and Kojo, revealing Kwasi as a double agent working to destroy Adwoa's empire. Within 30 minutes, as Nadia and Kwasi were sharing a celebratory toast with a minister, their phones began to buzz relentlessly. The headline, "The Billionaire's Collapse, Proxy Betrayal and Corporate Espionage Rock Accra," was already trending globally. Nadia, seeing her name linked to the scandal and the fake financial ruin, went white beneath her perfect makeup. Kwasi read the transcript and the fear was quickly replaced by a furious realization: he had been set up. The gala became chaotic, guests turned their backs on the suddenly toxic pair, their whispers now venomous and loud. The couple, draped in stolen status and crumbling lies, made a panicked, ignominious exit, leaving Adwoa's gown and their reputation in ruins. Nadia and Kwasi retreated to their penthouse, the gilded cage Kwasi had rented using Adwoa's compromised corporate card. The sanctuary felt suddenly suffocating, filled with the echo of their destroyed future. Nadia, ripping off the Kent gown, was hysterical, her perfect facade shattered by fear. The bond. If the money is gone, what did we risk everything for? She shrieked, her voice tight with terror and disbelief. Kwasi, still reeling from the realization that Adwoa had orchestrated his exposure, wasn't listening to her financial panic. He was obsessed with the betrayal, the audio proof, the timing, the precision of the leak. He knew Kojo would retaliate, fearing legal exposure from the transcript. The betrayal had to come from someone inside, someone they trusted, but they only trusted each other. Kwasi turned on Nadia, his eyes sharp with suspicion. You told no one about the fortress, about her condition, about the documents. Was this your idea? Did you try to cut me out? He accused, the industrial espionage he committed now secondary to the potential loss of the money. Nadia, stunned by the accusation, fought back with her own suspicions, recalling his odd phone calls and furtive meetings. It was you who insisted on the offshore transfers. It was your friend Kojo. You're the corporate spy who brought this down. The fight quickly devolved into a brutal confrontation, not of love lost, but of mutual, poisonous self-interest. Kwasi, fearing he might lose everything, suddenly saw Nadia not as a partner, but as a liability. He had to secure the remaining tangible assets he had stolen, the original paper contracts for Adwoa's most valuable asset, the Tunnel Gold Mine project. Kwasi, his face rigid with a desperate, self-preserving fury, grabbed the keys to the service vehicle, the only car he dared to use now that his luxury sedan was potentially tracked. He didn't tell Nadia where he was going, only that he needed a safe space to think. His true destination was an unassuming, two-story building in a quiet OSU neighborhood, the office of a disgraced former accounting partner who was loyal only to a sizable offshore transfer. Below the dusty office, hidden beneath a removable section of the floor, was a small, reinforced vault. This vault contained the paper evidence of his most strategic theft, the original hard copy contracts for the Tunnel Gold Mine project. He saw the papers as his last life raft, the only way to retain any power or wealth once the digital storm settled. If he controlled the mineral rights, he could negotiate his own exit, potentially cutting deals with Kojo or even holding the papers hostage against Adwoa's eventual recovery. Nadia was a complication, the tunnel contracts were insurance. Kwasi punched the complex numeric code into the vault panel, his fingers trembling with adrenaline and fear. The steel door hissed open, revealing the thick, official folder. He clutched it to his chest, the heavy paper feeling more substantial than any amount of digital currency. From the monitoring suite in the fortress, Adwoa saw the thick folder exit the vault. Kwasi's true motive was laid bare. He was not defending Nadia, he was securing his own future at her expense, prioritizing a physical asset over his partner in crime. A flicker of cold satisfaction crossed Adwoa's face. He's taken the bait, she whispered to Ya, her breath barely audible into the private comms unit. Activate the northern bypass lockdown sequence. The contracts do not leave Accra tonight. He is walking right into the traffic jam we created. Time for Ya to make a physical appearance. Kwasi gripped the tunnel contracts folder, sweat plastering his silk shirt to his back as the northern bypass ground to a standstill. The heat emanating from the stalled engines was suffocating. Every traffic light ahead was cycling erratically, blinking red, then green, then yellow, a bizarre electronic spasm that paralyzed the flow of vehicles. This wasn't normal gridlock, it felt orchestrated. He realized, with a sickening lurch, that this chaotic web of cars was the lockdown sequence Adwoa's assistant mentioned in the leaked recording, a trap set specifically for him. He desperately looked for an exit, but the road was choked. Then, a slim, dark figure on an Okada, weaving expertly through the narrow gaps, pulled up alongside his window. It was Ya. Her eyes, usually so neutral, were cold still. Before Kwasi could react, Ya expertly shattered the passenger window with a quick, weighted strike, simultaneously discharging a short, debilitating burst of pepper spray directly into his face. He screamed, dropping the folder onto the passenger seat as his vision exploded in agonizing fire. His hands flew instinctively to his burning eyes, losing all focus on the contracts. Ya's hand shot in, snatched the precious Tono gold mine folder, and retreated back onto the Okada in one fluid, terrifying movement. She gave him one final, chilling look. "The fortress always wins, Kwasi," she stated flatly, disappearing back into the maze of idling cars. Moments later, Adwoa's voice, filtered and distant, came over his hidden car comm system. "The debt is settled. The contracts are home." Kwasi was left choking, alone, and contractless. Kwasi stumbled into the penthouse, smelling faintly of the acidic pepper spray and adrenaline. His eyes were red and swollen, and his handsome face was contorted into a mask of pure terror. Nadia, who had spent the last hour smashing every piece of decorative glass in the living room, stopped mid-shriek. She saw the empty-handed, defeated look in his eyes and knew the digital assets weren't the only loss. "Where were you?" she demanded, advancing on him. "I was fighting the fallout, and you went AWOL. Where is the money, Kwasi?" He tried to push past her, muttering about an urgent errand that had gone wrong, but Nadia saw the fear wasn't just about the viral video, it was about something immediate. "The folder," she hissed, remembering his intense secrecy over the past few weeks. "The hard copies you swore weren't real. The Tono contracts. You kept the biggest asset, the physical deed, hidden in OSU, didn't you? You meant to leave me with only the debt and the scandal." The reality hit her with the force of a physical blow. Kwasi hadn't been her partner in crime, he had been protecting his personal escape route. Kwasi, broken by his failure to secure the contracts, simply nodded, collapsing onto the sofa, too defeated to lie. His silence was the ultimate confession. Nadia screamed a wordless sound of pure, incandescent rage. Grabbing a heavy, bronze sculpture Adwoa had imported from the Ashanti region, she held it at the glass wall beside him, narrowly missing his head. She realized she had fallen into Adwoa's trap only to be betrayed by her own supposed champion. Leaving Kwasi amidst the wreckage of their ambition, Nadia snatched her passport and made a single, desperate call, not to a lawyer, but to the one person she still believed Nadia held chose
power
the
over
exclusive,
Kwasi's
darkly lit love veranda in Lab
Zara.
1 for the meeting, a private space where Accra's whispers died on the velvet upholstery. Zara arrived wearing a formidable cloak of indifference. Her anger at Kwasi for the public humiliation was evident, but her deeper venom was reserved for Adwoa. She introduced him to the kind of money that made him forget basic humanity, Zara stated, swirling a bitter cranberry cocktail. "But your problem, Nadia, is that you only see Kwasi. I see Adwoa, the privileged puppet master who tests loyalty because she's never had to earn it. She thinks the whole world revolves around her petty experiments." Zara's resentment was fueled by years of competing in the same social and business circles, always watching Adwoa win effortlessly. Nadia laid out the deal, Kwasi's current whereabouts and the full details of his attempts to steal the Tono contracts, in exchange for one critical piece of assistance. I need something personal, something that will stop her, not just bankrupt her, Nadia urged. Zara leaned in, her eyes sharp and predatory. She had watched Adwa and her family for years, waiting for this chink in the armor. Adwa thinks she is invincible because she has the fortress and her money, Zara whispered, a conspiratorial smile touching her lips. Zara revealed the highly personal, painful secret. Adwa's supposed paralysis was, in fact, the exact condition her late mother had suffered years ago, but her mother's was tragically genuine. Adwa had been emotionally destroyed watching her mother's decline. By feigning this specific illness, Adwa wasn't just testing Nadia, she was cruelly mocking her own family's deepest trauma, using it as a prop. Hit her where she can't fake it, Zara advised, detailing a way to use this knowledge to break Adwa emotionally, a wound that Zara knew Adwa had never truly healed from. Nadia spent the night in a haze of frantic planning. Zara's information was more potent than any financial indictment, it was psychological warfare. The true betrayal wasn't the theft of assets, but the desecration of a sacred, painful memory. Nadia realized the only way to inflict a permanent scar on Adwa, a wound that outlived any legal victory, was to strike at the memory of her late mother, Omar. Nadia knew the location of Omar's most prized possession, a magnificent, custom-commissioned portrait, painted shortly before her genuine, paralyzing illness took hold. The painting hung in the main study of Adwa's sprawling, impenetrable mansion, the one room Adwa rarely entered and where, ironically, she now spent her days under observation. To execute the plan, Nadia contacted an old acquaintance, a former security technician named Firefly, who still held a grudge after Adwa's father had fired him. Firefly was bribed with the last of Nadia's liquid assets to provide a specialized thermal bypass key, a device capable of momentarily disabling the biometric locks on the study's heavy mahogany door, allowing access without triggering the silent alarm. The timing had to be perfect. During Adwa's brief, heavily supervised physiotherapy session, the only time she was moved out of sight of the main compound cameras. Nadia knew this was her one shot at true, devastating revenge. The goal was no longer the money, it was the final, heartbreaking triumph over the friend who had used their shared history of grief as an experiment. She carefully loaded a specialized, highly corrosive acid into a small, inconspicuous glass dropper, tucking it into the pocket of her tailored jumpsuit. The main compound was hushed, the only sound the distant were of the hydraulic lift taking Adwa to her basement physiotherapy session, Nadia's 15-minute window. Dressed in stolen scrubs, Nadia slipped into the secluded hallway of the north wing. She held the thermal bypass key, its surface cool against her palm. Firefly's instructions were precise, a quick, silent power spike to override the ancient biometric scanner. She pressed the key to the panel, the indicator light flashed, settling on an ominous blue. The heavy mahogany door of Omar's study clicked open, granting her access to the room dedicated to the memory of Adwa's mother. Inside, the air was still, scented with aged leather and dried lavender. The room was dominated by the prized, custom-commissioned portrait, Omar, young and vibrant, standing tall and whole. It was a painful reminder of the genuine tragedy Adwa was now mimicking. Nadia pulled out the glass dropper containing the corrosive acid. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about destroying the lie by obliterating the sacred truth it mocked. With a single, calculated motion, she poured the clear liquid onto the canvas, aiming for almost smiling eyes. The oil paint instantly sizzled, dissolving into a sickly, smoky blackness, leaving a devastating, corrosive hole where life once shone. A twisted sense of triumph washed over Nadia as she pocketed the vial and slipped out, the door sealing silently behind her. She barely made it 10 steps before she heard a sudden, sharp, metallic screech. The hydraulic lift, having encountered a minor fault, had returned Adwoa early. Adwoa's assistant pushed the wheelchair past the study entrance. Through the barely closed inner blinds, Adwoa caught a glimpse of the ruined painting. Her mind, so guarded, so calculating throughout her confinement, recoiled in agony. Her test was over, but the pain was only beginning. A single, impossible tremor ran down her supposedly paralyzed left hand. The lie had broken her. Monsa escorted Nadia into the private office, a minimalist room with panoramic views of across coastline. Nadia looked pale but defiant, ready for a legal skirmish. Adwoa sat at the center of a long table, perfectly positioned in her customized wheelchair. The room was heavy with the silence of finality. A stack of legal folders sat before them. Nadia, Adwoa's voice, the rasp she had developed over months, was back, though strained. The accounts are frozen. Every asset you touch is under provisional receivership. Kwasi has already confessed to the theft of the Tono antique, and Zora, his ex, provided the necessary evidence of the art forgery he ran. You have nothing left but a ruined reputation. Nadia stared at Adwoa, hate hardening her eyes, still believing Adwoa was genuinely disabled. This whole time, it was an act. Nadia spat, pointing at the wheelchair. Did I cause this? Did I just confirm your little suspicion? Adwoa's gaze remained unwavering. She took the pen, signing the final receivership order with her right hand. You confirmed everything, Nadia. Every dollar you took, every whispered lie, every drop of acid on my mother's memory. She pushed the documents towards Nadia. As Nadia looked down, ruined, Adwoa allowed her eyes to lift, meeting Nadia's directly. For a fleeting, devastating second, Adwoa's left hand, the one that had convulsed by the study door, gripped the armrest of the wheelchair, a gesture of perfect, effortless strength. Nadia saw it. The breath caught in Nadia's throat. Adwoa wasn't paralyzed. The test was a lie. But Adwoa's eyes, cold and final, conveyed the heartbreaking truth. You forced my hand. Monsa silently rode Adwoa toward the elevator. Nadia tried to scream the truth, but no sound escaped. Adwoa had achieved her goal, confirming the betrayal, but her final, terrifying act of vengeance was this, to forever remain in the wheelchair, ensuring Nadia would carry the agonizing secret that she caused her friends eternal self-imposed prison.